Hi, as James moves to end his important letter on wisdom, how to live a happy life by living it in a way that is wise. And wisdom is putting the information we know to work. And when we use the information God has given us, our lives work better. And so there's a joy and a contentment in life, a happiness that comes in life when we are working as God intends us to work, and God gives us the wisdom we need to live a life. So, as he draws to conclusion on prayer, James begins with be patient. He says in chapter 5, verse 7, be patient, like a farmer. Let's read it together. James chapter 5, verse 7. Patience is more than a virtue. Patience is wisdom. And you know what it's like, to treat people with patience means your relationships work better. And that's what James is talking about. James chapter 5, verse 7. Be patient, therefore, beloved, until the coming of the Lord. There's an end game. There's an end game called the coming of the Lord. Be patient, therefore, beloved, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious crop from the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. And so this word, a patient farmer receives the early and late rains, is a someone who works hard. Farmers, if you've been around them growing up, work hard. And so this idea of patience isn't sitting around, it isn't being lazy, it isn't staying in your brain, it isn't just doing nothing. It's a hardworking farmer that receives the crops. It's a do something. It's a farmer who works on the equipment on the downtime. It's a farmer who works on the livestock while the crops are arriving. So be patient like a farmer. You also must be patient. And then he switches. Then he goes to a courageous, strong heart. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Beloved, do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged. See, the judge is standing at the door. Now we're going to read something from an early church writer, Cyprian, who wrote around 250 AD on this judge. But he says, don't grumble against one another. In other words, this word grumble comes from this pressure cooker, from being piled on, constricted, trapped, closed in. So naturally, we want to lash out at someone when we're being pressured. Has that been you lately? What do you do? What are your words when you are under pressure? Has that been you lately? Of course it has. It's all of us are that way. And you know what? Our day, like that day, is full of pressure. It's full of intensity. There's, our weather, our environment, the heat, the worries. There's so much closing in on you. And God says, be patient and don't grumble against each other. So that word grumble comes from being pressed, from being piled on, from the pressure coming on. And he said, you also must be patient, strengthen the heart, for the coming of the Lord is near. Beloved, do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged. See, the judge is standing at the door. I don't really understand completely the concept of Christians being patient because the judge is standing at the door. But the early church uh, lived in fear and trembling, that if we would lose our cool, if we would lash out, we're in jeopardy of the fiery judgment like everybody else. So I want you to know that the early church didn't have the I'm saved. I can do what I want. It doesn't matter what I say or how I act. There's a real sense of the judgment of God on Christians as well as non-Christians in the early church. So, as an example of suffering and patient, beloved, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Isn't it awesome that the Bible gives us examples? You can read Hebrews 11, but here the example of patience is Job. Indeed, we call blessed those who show endurance. You have heard of the endurance of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. So, what a tough example. But we know the last chapter of Job, God met with Job. God gave them more, gave Job more than he lost in daughters and sons and livestock and wealth. And Job was seen there offering prayers and forgiveness at the end. So what are we saying? We're saying that James is saying that wisdom is burning cool. That's what patience is. A long fuse. That's what the word means. Dialing down and not reacting when you are pressured. That's pressure. That's patience. Patience is not reacting to those around you when you're under pressure. So the Bible understands pressure. The Bible understands how you feel. Isn't that great? And the Bible says, look, one way that you can live a better, happier, more fulfilling life is to deal with your patience. Can you do that? How do you do that? You do that by understanding the value of what's coming. The value of what's coming, the marriage supper of the Lamb. Secondly, you do that by the fearful reverence that Jesus Christ will judge all of us for our words and our actions. It's a serious thing to fall into the hands of the judge, Christ. And so this idea of the seriousness, the consequences of our actions and words, we're accountable for them. So we look forward. We live in this reverence, this sense of accountability. We also learn to be patient by examples. Do you know somebody in the Bible like Job? Do you know somebody outside of the Bible who lives with patience and doesn't say what they feel when they're under pressure? So we follow examples. The Lord is compassionate and merciful. God will deal with your choices and honor you for them with compassion and mercy. So I want to end with a farmer example. The farmer waits for the precious crop. I love that word precious, that word valuable. It's used in Revelations of money, and it's used in Hebrews 11 for the value of marriage, honoring your wedding vows. And James says, the farmer waits for the precious crop. So I want you to meditate on one thing: the value of what God has done for you, the value and pricelessness of what's coming for you. Let your heart grow strong, knowing you are valued, knowing that God has a valuable future for you, knowing that your choices, what you put in, you're going to receive so much more. You're investing in burning cool. You're investing in saying, you know what, I feel like grumbling, but my relationship with Jesus is so much more important. I'm looking forward to meeting with Jesus, and I want to be joyful, and I want to receive more because of the choices I've made to be patient in these difficult times. So think of the value that awaits you. Think of the preciousness of what God has done for you, and see that as more important. And don't let your income in the future from Christ dwindle away because you chose to be impatient. Make choices knowing uh, how valuable your faith is, how valuable your relationship is with Jesus, how valuable His love is for you, how valuable that future kingdom is, and how valuable it is to be a light in a perverse and dark generation. Think of the value you've been given as you think about making choices to be patient. Patience, it's one of the ways to live a wise life. And wise lives are better lives. God bless you. God keep you. God be near you.